Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and I want to talk about WandaVision because WandaVision exposed the MCU. And the reason why I'm saying that is because WandaVision wasted people's time and expectation. And what's happening now is you have these journals and these weirdos and even the director coming up with about 500 million excuses on, oh, it's the fans' fault for getting hyped. Oh, it's the fans' fault for expecting this or whatever. Or the director talking about, remember that scene from Iron Man 3 when we did that fake out Mandarin scene? Oh, I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the MCU. So you liked it, the amazing troll that everybody hated? It was one of the biggest downfalls of Iron Man 3 was the fact that you were building up the Mandarin. It was already bad enough. It already had controversy because the Mandarin is Chinese and you didn't have a Chinese actor to play the Mandarin. Then you do a fake out where Ben Kingsley is this joke of a man. How is that funny? That's not funny. That's not creative. That is a troll and a middle finger. But see, this is another thing that the reason why I'm saying WandaVision exposed MCU, because it's always excuses. Everybody always want to take up for the MCU. Everything the MCU does is well or whatever and stuff like that. Anytime they falter or mess up, we got about 500 million excuses on why this is that or blase blase. And I don't understand that. That's not right to keep defending the MCU. Yeah, it had 10 years of great movies or whatever, stuff like that, and hits or misses or whatever. But just because something make money or whatever doesn't mean that you can't criticize it or whatever. You know, we're so gung-ho that the most popular thing to do is to criticize everything DC does, and because DC has made dumb choices or whatever and stuff like that. But when the MCU make dumb choices, we're not allowed to call them out, but we can call out DC dumb choices every day of the week and whatever. And everybody was like, yep, you right. You got about 500 million articles talking about how much DC messes up. But when it comes to Marvel, you got about 500 million articles excusing the nonsense. They wasted Evan Peters. They wasted all the potential that, WandaVision had at the end. White Vision flying off, the fact that Evan Peters is Ralph Boner, that wasn't funny. The generic Agatha all along crap was just dumb as hell. When, again, people have to remember, even before WandaVision was filmed, Kevin Feige said that these movies and shows were going to connect to movies, and he mentioned WandaVision, and he said WandaVision will follow right up into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You couldn't have thought that people wasn't going to expect multiversal, action pieces or even characters from the multiverse coming out of nowhere. You should have known that was going to happen. I don't know what makes you think that people didn't think that was going to happen. You literally said WandaVision is literally the lead up to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Did you hear the key word? Multiverse. So when you bring in Evan Peters and stuff like that, who actually played Quicksilver, who was a fan favorite character from the X-Men reboot, young teen, and then you don't do anything with that character, makes absolutely no sense. It's not funny anymore. It's nothing but trolls. And you literally had brought in Monica Rambeau, to be honest. You wasted Monica too. You really brought Monica in just so you can set her up for Captain Marvel 2, which she should have had already been established in Captain Marvel. But okay, whatever. Sure. And my thing is, another thing that people don't want to admit, that what Wanda did was villainous. No matter how much you want to talk about how great it was or whatever and junk like that, and we're supposed to feel for her. Yes, we're supposed to feel for her, but right is right, wrong is wrong. As much as I don't like Haywood, he was correct about Wanda or whatever and stuff like that. She let her grief and stuff go, where she literally took control of a small town, 3,000 people, put her kids in lockup without even realizing she did it, and had them play out her little weird sitcom fantasies. I'm sorry, how does that make her a hero? Oh, well, she was grieving. Okay. Spider-Man grieved. Pepper Potts grieved. Hawkeye grieved. Hulk grieved. But never to take over an entire city or anything, or do something so crazy that you're villainous at the end of the day. And then you say certain things, and you build up to nothing. You had Monica saying, "Oh, I know an astro physicist who can help us with that." You couldn't have thought that people wasn't gonna think Blue Marvel, Mr. Fantastic. Those are the characters that qualify for that kind of stuff. And you didn't do anything with that one. Or at the end of Wanda freaking out or whatever, you could have introduced Magneto, and he could have took her home to rest. Where, yes, after she beat Agatha and, she freed the city and, she, made everything right or whatever, it took so much of an emotional toll that, Magneto came, and Magneto and Charles Xavier, somebody else came and was like, it's time for you to go home, come home, Wanda. You've been gone home for a long time. You could have did something like that. Or you could have brought in Doctor Strange. Then you had little tweaks to Mephisto. Mephisto was a big part of Wanda's children. You can't just ignore the elephant in the room and be like, oh, it's because the fans had too many expectations. Why the hell are they not supposed to? 10 years you cover-setted this. You the one who built up people excitement for these movies, and then you want to get mad because the fans are upset that you cracked them out. You built this show up and you crash and burn towards the end. No matter how much you want to look at it, you failed. You failed. And it's okay, but don't sit up here and try to defend your failure. Acknowledge your failure and move on. It's like they never want to acknowledge their failure, and then they want to have all these people defending this kind of stuff and trying to blame the fans or the quote unquote fanboys and comic book purists who expect too much. It's not just the quote unquote fanboys and the comic book purists. General audience is saying that. It's not just anybody saying it. It is the general audience is saying, what a letdown, what a waste of Evan Peters, Monica Rambeau, the ending, White Vision. You wasted all of that just so you can do what? Some quick little jokes? So Wanda can, get rid of her imaginary family so these real families can have their life back? They'll never know what you sacrificed for them. What? All of that stuff was coming from her. What did she sacrifice? Her husband had already died prior, and them kids never existed in the first place. It's crazy. What are you talking about? Then you brought in Darcy and Jimmy Woo to do what? They didn't do anything towards the end. That's another thing. At least if you're going to bring in these notable actors and actresses from other Marvel shows and movies, make them useful. And don't just have them there just because. You literally wasted people's time. And you can't get mad at that. People are going to criticize. People have the right to criticize. They're fans. They theorize stuff. This is what fans do. You're excited for this kind of stuff. Why wouldn't you have thought that people weren't going to criticize or come up with theories for WandaVision? Because once again, WandaVision is supposed to be the lead up to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You couldn't have thought that people wasn't going to think more for it. You couldn't have. Anybody who said that they didn't is a lie. And probably stupid, to be honest. You're literally sitting up here giving people breadcrumbs, and people love Easter eggs because you've left Easter eggs. And you over 10 years, you slowly built up this universe, and you established characters or whatever, and left little breadcrumbs for people to figure out. But now all of a sudden, it's a problem, and now you want to try to compare it to The Last Jedi? Please, WandaVision is way better than the Last Jedi. I can tell you that. Last Jedi was an insult to fans. This was a crash and burn for fans. There's a difference. One was a competent that just had who fly too far to the sun and burned out. The other one was just straight trash that looked good. But trash is still trash. But let's stop pretending like everything Marvel does is supposed to be perfect or whatever. And when they have when they have real criticism and real issues, we should call them out. We have the right to call them out. And all these journals and weirdos trying to defend it is stupid. Just like the director trying to defend it. No, you're stupid. Don't defend it. You made that decision. Lay in your shit. Own your shit. You laid in it. You made it. Lay in it. Don't try to come up with 500 million excuses. The same thing with the Russo brothers when people were criticizing Endgame, because Endgame was hot trash when you really think about storyline. The only thing that really was hyped up is literally what? The Captain America versus Captain America thing, the Black Widow sacrifice thing, and literally the final battle. Other than that, everything else was trash, to be honest. From a story wise, it was trash. And don't even get me started with Captain America's ending for that. That was trash. And yet you got the Russo brothers every couple of months trying to defend it, trying to come up with reason and whatever. No, you set up this movie, you set up the rules, you broke the rules, you made terrible choices. Own your shit. Own it. Embrace the criticism. Just like anything that the DCEU did, Zack Snyder owned it and he took it. Any other director that was doing other movies, own it. Except for the Birds of Prey. The Birds of Prey. Own it. Even Patty Jenkins owned her nonsense from Wonder Woman 1984. She's not blaming the fans or whatever, but own it. You have to own it. Stop expecting that the fans are supposed to be responsible for their expectations for something that is supposed to be entertaining them. Your job is to make sure that you make your audience understand your movie, be pleased with your movie at the end of the day, and make it thought-provoking. But you didn't. You do realize there's a lot of people who are fans of Wanda and Vision, who read the comic books, who know of these characters. They are really excited about this character and her entire thing. And she is connected to Magneto and Quicksilver because that is her father and her brother, no matter how much Marvel want to try to retcon that out. You should have known it was going to be a big deal. You should have known that was going to be a big deal, especially dealing with alternate realities, multiverse, magic, demons. You know, you couldn't have thought that people were just going to walk in there and just take the little Disney-fied bullcrap that you served. And yes, you served up a Disney-fied bullcrap. Say what you want about the DCEU, but at least there are ramifications for everything that happened. You know, Disney seems to only get somewhere towards that. And then after that, they kind of make it a joke or, you know, a flyby. The only time we really kind of seen a little bit of consequences is when Monica Rambeau came back, and that wasn't even really much of nothing. That really wasn't much of nothing. And then, of course, everybody was like, oh, well, that explains why when Peter was asking for help, Doctor Strange and the rest of them, they were dealing with Wanda stuff. They wasn't dealing with nothing from Wanda. None of them heroes were dealing with Wanda stuff. They just wasn't there. So you wasted that opportunity, and that still made it where it was redundant to say WandaVision took place before Spider-Man Far From Home. Because it was stupid. It was stupid. You wasted time. And now you're trying to excuse it. No, don't excuse it. Own it. Own your crap. You had people excited the first time. And when you showed that Pietro, everybody was talking about it. That was supposed to be your Luke Skywalker moment. And you didn't have the Luke Skywalker moment. You crashed and burned because you wanted to do another season. What did you want to do? You wanted to do another dick joke, I guess? Or subverting expectations. I'm so sick of this subverting expectations because y'all think that subverting expectation means destroying the character or disappointing your audience. You know you're going to disappoint your audience, and you do it anyway. And you're not doing it in like some clever way that it makes sense. You're doing it in an insulting way that pisses people off. And now people are talking about it. And now you want to try to cry about, oh, I can't believe the MCU fans are bullying the director or bullying WandaVision show or whatever and stuff like that after that amazing ending. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't amazing. She did terrible things. There should be some ramifications for that kind of stuff. You can't just let her fly off. There should have been some character that was like, wait, hold on. You kind of did a lot. You took control of a town. You had them under your spell. I know you didn't know at first, but you do now. You have to pay for that. There are consequences for that kind of stuff. Just like there was consequences for the blimp that they skipped over and turned into the joke of everything in Spider-Man Far From Home. So even if you really wanted to do something like that, you kind of made it a joke. Before Spider-Man Far From Home, which Far From Home shouldn't have even been the closing of Phase 3. Endgame should have been Phase 3. Spider-Man Far From Home should have been like the beginning. That way you could have told a more serious story in Spider-Man Far From Home instead of some summer flick that really wasn't all that great, to be honest. Because that was another thing. You got people hyped for that multiverse crap, and you didn't do it. And then it was just like, once again, you're subverting expectations for what? Own your shit, Marvel. You made a decent series, but it crashed and burned like Game of Thrones Season 8. This is your Season 8 of Game of Thrones. And it's okay. Own your crap. Own your stories. You decided to make these decisions. You can't blame the fans after a while. At some point, you got to put on big boy pants and look yourself in the mirror and be like, man, I messed up. And I have to pay for it. You have to have consequences. You saw the end of Man of Steel, right? You remember how everybody reacted? Guess what? There were consequences when Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice started, right? There were consequences. Superman had to own that. Wanda needs to own her mistakes. You can't just let her off scot-free. You can't. I'm sorry to tell you that. You can't let her just fly off and just do whatever just because Elizabeth Olsen is charming. Yes, she's charming. But she screwed up some stuff. Just like Planet Hulk. When Hulk had lost his entire his wife and their kids or whatever, because the Illuminati, Fantastic, Reed Richards, Black Bolt of the Inhumans, Doctor Strange, Professor Xavier, Black Panther, and Namor shipped his behind off into space and had like a little nuclear reaction bomb that blew up the planet or whatever and stuff like that. It shouldn't have even been in the ship in the first place. But they made the Hulk they punished the Hulk for attacking the Earth, but they didn't punish the heroes. Yes, they got beat up by the Hulk and everybody else. That's great. But they didn't let them own their stuff, and that's another problem that I have with these Marvel heroes. They do some devious stuff, and they don't let them own it. Some heroes do, but not all the time, and they always try to figure out some kind of way to, abolish what they did. I bet you they're going to abolish this nonsense that Wanda did and be like, oh, she was possessed the whole time. I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do. It just wasn't a good show towards the end. Been watching it. It wasn't good towards the end. It got boring. It got repetitive. You slowly start opening up, and then when you slowly start opening up, you had everybody. You had everybody by the balls, and then you just crashed and burned, and now you're getting the consequences of that crash and burn. So acknowledge it. Stay in it. Own your shit. But don't blame the fans. It's not the fans' fault that their expectation was high because of 10 years of build-up for a universe. You built this universe up to everything being interconnected, something tied to something. Now you want to get mad that people are upset. Sorry, Marvel, you're crumbling. You can't expect everything you do is going to be good. But at least if you're not going to expect that, at least own your shit. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that was my video. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.